North Korea flaunts tactical ballistic missile launchers. Australian state stops remote working. Cambodia breaks ground on controversial $1.7 billion canal. Japan stocks rebound 9% after historic losses. Severe drought returned to the Amazon. Taiwan is making a TV show about a Chinese invasion.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Wednesday, August 7th, and here are your top stories. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw the delivery of 250 new tactical ballistic missile launchers to frontline troops, which Seoul said could be used to threaten South Korea. The launchers have been described by state media as a modern tactical attack weapon personally designed by Kim and ready to be transferred to Korean People's Army units on the border with the South. Photographs released by KCNA showed rows of launchers lined up beside red banners calling for victory under floodlights at the event held at night and attended by Kim.
In a speech, Kim blamed the U.S. for creating a nuclear-based military bloc that forced his country to further strengthen its military capabilities. A spokesperson for Seoul's unification ministry handling inter-Korean affairs said North Korea's illegal nuclear and missile programs were the primary threat to peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. A principal research fellow at the Asian Institute for Policy Studies said that Pyongyang wanted to show it had the capacity to strike its neighbor. The North's increasingly strident rhetoric is also likely aimed at the U.S. presidential election, potentially preparing the ground for negotiations if former President Donald Trump wins. Kim and Trump held a number of unprecedented meetings before a summit in Vietnam in 2019 collapsed over sanctions.
The government of Australia's most populous state ordered all public employees to work from their offices by default beginning Tuesday and urged stricter limits on remote work after news outlets provoked a fraught debate about work-from-home habits established during the pandemic. Chris Minns, the New South Wales Premier, said in a notice to agencies Monday that jobs could be made flexible by means other than remote working, such as part-time positions and role sharing, and that building and replenishing public institutions require being physically present.
His remarks were welcomed by business and real estate groups in the state's largest city, Sydney, who have decried falling office occupancy rates since 2020 but denounced by unions, who pledged to challenge the initiative if it was invoked unnecessarily. The instruction made the state's government, Australia's largest employer with more than 400,000 staff, the latest among a growing number of firms and institutions worldwide attempting to reverse remote working arrangements introduced as the coronavirus spread. However, it defied an embrace of remote work by the governments of some other Australian states, according to some analysts, who suggested lobbying by a major newspaper prompted the change.
Cambodia broke ground Monday on a controversial China-funded canal to link the capital Phnom Penh to the sea, despite environmental concerns and the risk of straining ties with neighboring Vietnam. The $1.7 billion 180-kilometer Phu Nhan Teco Canal is planned to connect the country's capital with Kep Province on Cambodia's south coast, giving it access to the Gulf of Thailand. Cambodia hopes the 100-meter-wide, 5.4-meter-deep canal will lower the cost of shipping goods to the country's Seoul deep-sea port and reduce reliance on Vietnamese ports.
The project highlights the outsized role that China plays in Cambodian politics and economy. Concerns remain about the potential environmental impacts of the canal, especially on the flow of the Mekong River, which sustains millions of people across 6 countries through its fish and agriculture. Analysts say the project is partly an effort by Cambodia's ruling elite to bolster support for Hun Manet, who last year succeeded his father, Hun Sen, as the country's leader. Manet said the canal will promote national prestige, territorial integrity, and the development of Cambodia, adding that the country had built bigger and more expensive infrastructure projects before. However, he noted this historic canal was different and had nationwide support.
Japan stocks rebounded sharply on Tuesday after the Nikkei 225 and the Topix dropped over 12% in the previous session. Japan's Nikkei 225, which saw its largest loss in the previous session since the 1987 Black Monday crash, and the broad-based Topix gained 9% after reaching session highs of over 10%. The recovery brought both the Nikkei and the Topix back into positive territory for the year so far. The Bank of Japan raising rates to their highest level since 2008 on July 30th caused the yen to strengthen to a 7-month high, pressurizing stocks.
Markets globally were also spooked by fears of a U.S. recession stoked by a weaker-than-expected jobs report as well as the unwinding of the yen carry trade. Japan's heavyweight trading houses rebounded more than 6%, with Mitsui up over 9%. Other sectors that saw gains included Japanese automakers and semiconductor suppliers, such as Honda and Renesas Electronics, which rose over 13% and 17%, respectively. South Korea's Kospi jumped above 3%, while the small-cap Kosdaq was up more than 5%. South Korean heavyweight Samsung Electronics rose 2.1%, while chipmaker SK Hynix climbed 4.5%. Mainland China's CSI 300 traded flat, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was up 0.9%.
Holder of 1/5 of the world's fresh water, the Amazon is beginning the dry season with many of its rivers already at critically low levels. This has prompted governments to anticipate contingency measures to address issues ranging from disrupted navigation to increasing forest fires. A technical note issued Wednesday by the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization, which includes Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, and other countries, stated that the Amazon basin is facing one of the most severe droughts in recent years in 2024, with significant impacts on several member countries.
In several rivers in the southwestern Amazon, water levels are at record lows for this time of year. Historically, the driest months are August and September, when fire and deforestation peak. On Monday, Brazil's Federal Water Agency declared a water shortage in the Madeira and Purus basins, covering an area nearly the size of Mexico. In June, neighboring Amazonas state implemented a similar measure for 20 of its 62 municipalities, which are mostly accessed only by water or air. These steps were taken more than 2 months earlier than in 2023, when the Amazon basin experienced its worst drought on record, killing river dolphins, choking cities with smoke for months, and isolating thousands who depended on water transportation.
Following a military blockade, panic and chaos ripped through a besieged island. Residents scrambled to withdraw cash, foreign nationals rushed to be evacuated, riots break out in prisons, and television networks are hacked into broadcasting enemy propaganda. These fictitious scenes have stirred emotion and imagination in Taiwan over what an imminent Chinese invasion may look like, since they were released last month in a trailer for Zero Day, a forthcoming Taiwanese television series. The 10-part show is the first in Taiwan to dramatize a possible invasion by China's People's Liberation Army.
That threat has loomed over the self-governing island for decades but is now gaining pace as a more powerful and aggressive China increasingly flexes its military might, pushing tensions to new heights. The 17-minute trailer hit close to home in Taiwan, making headlines in local media and garnering more than 1 million views on YouTube. However, the show also attracted criticism, including from opposition politicians, who said it created panic and exaggerated the crisis. Many of Taiwan's 23 million people have grown used to Beijing's military threats, even as they become more regular and prominent under Xi Jinping. But Xin Mei Cheng, the showrunner of Zero Day, worried that her fellow Taiwanese citizens have grown too numb to the danger of an impending conflict.
The answer for yesterday was B, blaring. The radio was blaring out rock music. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Taiwan is making a TV show about a Chinese invasion. Number 1, blockade. 游击对港口的包围封锁. Striking lorry drivers agreed to lift their blockades of main roads. Number 2, evacuate. 把人从危险的地方疏散转移撤离. Children were evacuated from London to escape the bombing. Number 3, imminent. 有指不愉快事情即将发生的，临近的. The system is in imminent danger of collapse. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.